Because generational curses vary. They go all down the lines, all the way to struggle, love matters. You might just be carrying something just because how you was raised. So your mind is constructed in a certain way to lead into certain outcomes that spiritually, you don't even care about being in them kind of energies in those spaces, but you don't know you don't know nothing else. So that's just a small world that others had helped you construct it and wasn't wise enough to help you with shadow work to help you understand not to go down these same line of reasonings and trains of events. And a lot of these individuals didn't know how to that they was in these things and experiencing these things. So just their way of getting a 1-2 and feeling comfortable in their life carrying a lot of these traumas and things of that nature. So they'll be giving you some advice that they think work for them to protect them from an insecurity or vulnerability that you would never had experience because you probably stronger than them, that family member or parent or associate or some or auntie or something like that or whatever like that. But yet you got some type of fear and you're being aware to prevent something that you already got the strength or wouldn't even experience based on someone else's advice that came from a space of thinking that it was good advice, but it was purely on the basis of their own individual way of doing something to help a vulnerability you may not even have. And now you're developing someone else's trauma, someone else's generational curse, and you're fighting something you didn't necessarily have to fight. That's going to manifest as an actual person, place, or thing in your life that push that energy on you that purely come from that curse that structured your mind from the individuals who raised you or just your living conditions. Every time you smell that fart cloud peer pressure when you take a breath of fresh air. Know what I'm saying? So peep game. This is how you be aware of every second instant of what's going on with your spirit and what you getting help with to create with your mind and what you get ready to physically manifest as an event. Now, look, what is a generational curse? To be specific, before we become Google scholars and get into this fake Christian grandma energy where we understand their perspective of generational curse, but it puts us in a space of not knowing how to argue for or against something. So the next idea we only know how to come up with is pick the best generational curse without looking at it as a generational curse, which is what we see as pick the best religion, pick the best spiritual, pick the best. Stop being narcissist spirits out there. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much for the Cash App. I ain't gonna say your name yet until I know you're a troll or not. But I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart if you ain't a troll. Now, a generational curse is a trial, and I hate that the trolls be spoiling me being in good spirits a lot of time for y'all, because I would love to shout out everybody and stuff like that and everything without having that in the back of my head and constantly be in defense and war mode because I'm constantly fighting spirits in 6 different realms. You know what I'm saying? But hey, I can't complain. I'm here for God. So I can't be no weak ass, no bitch ass spirit. You know what I'm saying? Real shit. I gotta take it all. Be an example and take it all. Failure, falling, uplifting, prosperity, air, take it all. Now look, check this out. A generational curse is a trial or tribulation that a group of people experienced and their trauma being passed on to their children and descendants as a form of witchcraft. Remember, anytime you're utilizing your thoughts and feelings as more important than using it for something that how they bend in and become your organs and body and voice box in the first place, then this is you being demonic and you kind of knowing how we all created teamwork makes the dream work, but forgetting that's the actual process. So you still using your mind, which is our mind, is our power that we create as an individual spirit, which is a soul, but you just don't know what you're using it for. So you will secretly try to manipulate the thought and feeling to create or control an event. And then you try to do this with other individuals who have that same ability. And then that's how you end up manifesting situations where you're perceived as the fool, or you get blood on your hands, or you thought you were smarter than your pants in some way, shape, or form, where the plane don't land. But for the most part, what is a generational curse, to be specific? A generational curse is a trial or tribulation a group of people experienced and their trauma being passed on to their children and descendants as a form of witchcraft for generations down the line as a form of childishness. This is a group of individuals who didn't do enough shadow work. So a lot of their thoughts and feelings and resentment and self-entitlement have been passed on to the children. You know what I'm saying? Now, Now, this is a form of adult childishness as spirits by making those who come after identify with things they didn't directly experience. This is how a lot of y'all even got into Christianity, because you might have seen something scary in the backyard, and instead of grandma or your parents or somebody around you or auntie or uncle telling you that it could be an animal or something like that, grandma told you don't go back there because Jesus is trying to give you a message. So now you grew up thinking that the good things and the bad things in your life got something to do with you being affected by going in an area that got something to do with Jesus or not. And then for the most part, it probably ain't have anything to do with that. It was something that grandma came up with. And you probably, if you ain't grow up and read the Bible for yourself, you ain't even gonna realize that ain't even in the Bible. This grandma just came up with grandma Christianity, used names in the Bible to remix it with her vulnerability and her prostitute habits. So for the most part, once you understand that, and you understand ain't nobody grandmother drew nothing on no pyramids. But other than that, like I said, right now, when it comes into generational curse, right? It's a trial and tribulation that a group of people experience and their trauma being passed on to their children and descendants as a form of witchcraft for generations down the line as a form of childishness by making those who come after identify with things they didn't directly experience, which keeps the ball rolling in a negative energy as individuals identify from their own perspective and victimize themselves by submerging in that energy, aka opening yourself up to be exposed by experiences unwarranted to you. So when you start to accept terms and agreements, like going back to this example, grandma said the reason something was moving in the backyard may have something to do with Jesus Christ coming back. Then for the most part, once you accept that, now you have accept a spring roll or like a snowball effect of you submerging yourself into some type of energy that opens you up to have experiences that really unwarranted to you. Like you didn't have to develop those type of fears and things of that nature. You could have developed your creative fears and non-fears and things of that nature. But these things set you back into distractions, thinking that you have to deal with vulnerabilities and securities in other areas that leave unfulfilled other areas that actually God and all possibilities wants you to be in to help you with things a lot faster. So these things will hold you back in life of 10, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and things of that nature, just based off a generational curse. And you experiencing, as you teamwork makes the dream work, helping that energy manifest in your life to the point that you could justify it like it actually makes sense for you to experience that. And therefore, you'll be somewhere smiling like your testimony is something positive, but it'll just be for other individuals who got the same generational curses as you in their own individual way, which y'all don't know. Y'all the blind leading the blind. And in every area, there's a each one teach one. In every area, there's a ladder scale to help individuals out. But if the leading role in that blind energy doesn't become unblind and unwrap the blindfolds and unleash the veil and take the rose-colored glasses off, then that will be just another vessel that the shadow government could use with rhetoric to steer other people and who they influence down the wrong end and things to accept generational curses that's not actually meant for y'all. See what I'm saying? Now, generational curses, these are how they are created. Generational curses are created by the lack of ability to obtain the things the government created. So never forget that, because when you miss the starting point, you will create your own bias. And based upon your limited and comprehension skills and awareness, you would cling on to a generational curse based on something that has nothing to do with nothing, and it doesn't have a solution to get you out of it. And you will remain getting crumbs copying their system. So generational curses are created by the lack of ability to obtain the things the government created. Don't never blame that on God. Don't never blame a generational curse on all possibilities, no devil, nothing. Always understand there's humans involved. So when you understand the starting point of, because look, sit back right now and think about the stories that deals with the generational curses you may identify with, or your grandmother or your parents, as far as these religions and things of that nature. Think about the description of the people. It's always a lacking of something that the rulers had. And if the shadow government is the ones creating the things that the rulers have for their puppets, then for the most part, when you don't obtain these things, this is putting you into a space of understanding that you may be putting more importance on things that have nothing to do with God, and blaming yourself and claiming that God is putting you through this trial and tribulation by lacking of these things, and these things in general have nothing to do with God. Just have everything to do with some humans creating and giving importance to it, and making you feel like you have to give your blood, sweat, and tears for it. And your lazy mind, inability of being able to go in the routine and pattern the shadow government wants you to do, you will also take their words and their meanings behind it and make curse yourself. And they created a language to make you curse yourself even when you think you're praising yourself. And you'll be thinking you're less than when you're not able to gain the ability of their insurance or the government plan, or in God we trust back of their dollar bill with their face on it. And you'll be claiming that it has something to do with something that ain't got nothing to do with them, and they created it. And now you're self-victimizing yourself in an area where no one's even around. And this is you having a fight with your own mind that has nothing to do with God, but you claim it as God. So don't get into that curse. That's a curse. You're cursing yourself. That devil, that's a devil that they put on you, where you're just comparing and contrasting yourself to a whole bunch of statistics that they're creating. And the most successful statistics, when you don't reach it, you're hard on yourself. And that statistic was made by Walt Disney. You know what I'm saying? Who said you had to do that actual thing to become an actor or actress or a rapper or a singer? You see what I'm saying? You could come up with your own way, like Uriel to be that. And if you're lost in their creation of what it means to be validated in that world, then for the most part, you may feel like you're not successful because you're not getting acceptance based upon the other agents that they have created what it looks like for acceptance and what something looks successful is. So when you don't even create your own comfort success, that's not from this world, that you could bring into this world, this is another way how they can get you. Because they have put a peer pressure on you to make you feel like what you're doing is not worth it unless you're obtaining yourself in something that they got going on in some way, shape, or form, which is the industry and stuff like that. And you'll find yourself putting your whole gift and talent in the back seat if you don't obtain those things that they made you believe is more important first. And they just rock people to sleep, left to right, left to right, left to right, make you accept all generational curses that you didn't have to accept, and you could have brought a whole new way of how to do something, and then they all copying you to know how to make an industry. You know what I'm saying? Now look though. So in a nutshell, when you understand the starting point, you will start to look at a lot of generational curses that's not even affecting you, because it's not a large percentage scale of energy to affect you in a negative way. But you'll be able to start looking at some of these like, dang, I could get rid of that. I can get rid of that voodoo or voodoo or this, that, or that Haitian, because it really ain't helping me. And it's really me accepting something and making me experience something I don't have to experience. And once you jump out of that space and create a different mentality, it'll bend in and become your facial expressions, the way you talk, and the time of the places that you be, whether they're the same places that you be in when you be on different time, like demon time. For an example, I'm from the hood, right? So you can accept a certain generational curse based on what kind of things you're into or your race or whatever like that, right? And let's say you got that same kind of energy as another individual, but you don't think the same. As a spirit, you're in a different space. So you're creating a different spaceship, a different thought pattern. So your action's different. So when a police officer behind you, you don't got the same energy as another person who accepting a certain generational curse. A person might accept a certain generational curse so deeply it make them jitter on the accelerator pedal. And when they didn't have to, or already feel guilty, and you ain't even got nothing in the car, and you talking about, oh, there go the police, and you ain't even involved in nothing, things of that nature. And that would make that mentality will bend in as your adrenaline and make you do the steering wheel or rear way or something like that. The police end up pulling you over or something like that, thinking that you a drunk driver, where really you just stuttered over the steering wheel that you didn't mean to. So you tried to get back on track, and it just looked like a car that's driving behind you that you don't know what you're doing or something like that. So you just have to explain to the police officer. But at the same time, That that right there, you manifested getting pulled over because you accepted a generational curse because you ain't even get pulled over and get beat like Rodney King and stuff like that. But since that's on your mind and you accepted it, soon as the police officer got behind you, that fart cloud is added with your fart cloud and all that condensed. And now you made something to get pulled over. And now you probably said something like, oh yeah, y'all, I know how y'all did Rodney King and stuff like that. And now you going through a similar situation yourself just because you identified with a curse and added your own energy into the moon cycle of it. Where me or another individual who listen to me might look like you, come from your same background, but don't got that generational curse. So when they was driving, it didn't bend in on itself to make their elbow do something weird with the steering wheel at a time they shouldn't did it. So that you wasn't on demon time, but you was in the same place or location, but you didn't get pulled over. And the person who accepted a generational curse got pulled over. And that original thought came from years ago. So the first thought ain't even the first thought you got to think of when you're going through an event. Sometimes that be an accumulation of an original first thought you didn't have months ago. And in this case, some of y'all generational curses start the moment you come out of your mother. The music she was listening to, the bad mouthing people she was around, the gossiping energy she was in, the church she was constantly going to, the bad advice she was getting from her auntie, all when you was in her stomach and when she rolled down the steps on purpose. All that energy, all that energy came out the day. So that original thought, sometimes you can't even find that original thought if you ain't deep spiritually enough. Because some of them be the thoughts that start accumulating as a snowball effect the moment you took your first breath out your mama's butt. And that's a generational curse for your ass. You see what I'm saying? All right, I'm about to finish running this down. I'm an individual. So look, like I said, generational curses are created by the lack of ability to obtain the things that the government have created. Once you understand that starting point, you will save yourself from giving a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to things that you'll realize really ain't worth it. And it would have been a situation of be careful what you ask for if you would have obtained it, because you would have been unfulfilled anyway. You see what I'm saying? And had to look over your shoulder or play extreme protection spells because of the world you was in to manifest what you accumulated. So once you participate too much with the shadow government world, so much competitive energy there, you got to protect what you accumulate. And that becomes a whole mission itself, to the point that vacations vary. You might not never be able to take a break. You know what I'm saying? And once everything you accumulated, whether it's $1 zillion, they ain't even worth it. You got to put you in a position to get that all away at some point, because everything that come with it ain't even worth it. You know what I'm saying? So you want to always make sure you're doing something for God and get there the fair way. And if it ain't meant this time, it ain't meant. Whatever you was used for was used as an example for individuals who even in that position, to show them that they ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Real shit. You take pride in what any position God put you in, regardless if it don't match up to whatever statistics the world and the government created that got something to do with the successful statistics. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't go to certain colleges, if you don't go to certain this or go to certain that, then you got to be down on yourself and feel like you, like all that. That's fart cloud shit. That's fart cloud peer pressure. You got, sometimes you got to sit back and think, then what the fuck did the motherfuckers colleges named up under? What did they go through? Nothing. All they did was fuck a few people in indigenous lands and came up with a knowledge. So how about you start coming up with that same kind of knowledge? See, they don't like us talking like that though. The talking like that is the reason this page is demonetized. That's why I don't talk like this on the Uriel channel. We want to keep that page on good, clean, and free. You know what I'm saying? But look, check this out. Like I said, but going back, generational curses are created by the lack of the ability to obtain the things the government created. So since God is something that they could see, God is all possibilities. They stamped the name on it and it became their generative principle. They're all is one is all circumstance. But we all have the ability to reach that space, and it's really all possibilities. You really ain't supposed to give it no name. And it ain't really it. You know what I'm saying? It's just a space. And for the most part, you obtain abilities to bring that nothingness into something. And then you're being used as a vessel. But for the most part, since God is something the government created to play, so they can play all possibilities, right? You think for things to be possible in your life, right? Really think about this. For you to think things is possible in your life, what do you need? Something the shadow government created. a shelter, money, a metal that been melted, whether that's a weapon or a car or whatever like that, a key. See what I'm saying? So let's get clear on things before we start giving credence to things and calling it God and all possibilities, where it's purely some human shit down here. We got to really be careful in the spirit world. We speak curses on ourselves when we think we praising ourselves just due to the fact of how they made the language in reverse. So keep that in mind. Now, it's a spell. Words are spells. Always keep that in mind before you get too comfortable in the world, because you have to relate. And in the back of your frontal lobe, you forget this is still going on. Everything is a spell. You could be participating with something because it's a good conversation, and the whole conversation could be accumulating into one of the worst days for you next week or something like that. Now, look. So since God is something the government created to play all possibilities, your whole sense of heaven or security on earth has something to do with what the government created. So being separate from the government in some way is the reason you feel separate from God, being low-hanging fruit minded. This is only if you feel low-hanging fruit minded. If you part of God children like me, you know how to find satisfactions that's not part of this world. And just having the ability to bring it in this world is the satisfaction. And you show the world how to be satisfied beyond things of this world, being able to use this world as a tool to show that new expression behind a tool that may look similar to what everybody else be fighting for as outdated energy. And therefore you're used as a vessel to make something look brand new, like nothing before. You made something look more like God. You know what I'm saying? Period. Now, the government, now check this out. Now, what the government do is put names and titles on the characteristics of groups of people over the time who couldn't get with the program of the ruler's corporation or country. And what they do is make folklore stories about what these kinds of people need to do and what they went through and what they need to do if they want God in their life, aka basically the things that the government have created. So for the most part, the government basically made a manuscript and laid it out for you to do if you want the benefits of the government. This is how they use religion against you to still do what they need you to do, aka build the world. So you could be Creflo Dollar, Joel Osteen, you know what I'm saying, all you want, but yet you're working for a church, paying taxes, building the product of the world, which is one of them: business, entertainment, education, religion, and politics. So they don't care how you do it. They know there's been many who came before you who was rebellious, and they're tired of hanging people upside down on crosses. So why not just come up with a philosophical way to make a foolish low-hanging fruit, sheep-minded, still do what we need them to do, build the world, social security number, get insurance, but at the same time, this individual still feel like they're doing something that's catering to their insecurity or vulnerability and a group of other individuals they influence. And, you know, psychology, for you to even know any wittiness about it, don't you think the individuals who teach this are doing it on a global scale? So you don't think that they're doing it, infiltrating into the concepts of all things like business, entertainment, education, religion, politics? You got to be a goddamn fool if you don't think so. So for the most part, this is how they engineer things to suit all individuals, even ones who think they're rebellious. You see what I'm saying? To still make them do what yo monkey ass, what they need you to do anyway. Don't allow them to be that intelligent now. I'm giving you game. You could be waking up every day thinking, oh, I'm doing something right for the universe. No, you're doing something right for them, so they can sit somewhere and lay on their stomachs and be in all these energies that you give your blood, sweat, and tears for, that they just make and sit in and make you build after they come up with the idea and build it for themselves first, then make y'all build it on a mass production scale, corporation, country, social security number. That's their money. You as a vessel, not the money that they make you go get. That's you being a crumb. You being the person participating in everything on your social security number, showing that you are aligning yourself with the product of the world and building their new ideas and technology. That's the money in foreign exchange to them. And anytime it's too much of a group of individuals that's out of wedlock incest and making money or not putting it back in to the government, that's what they create as depopulation control in ways to make y'all think it's convenient and things you need to do as far as other things they create. So they create the problem and a solution. So instead of you knowing that is BTD, body temperature disorder. They tell you it's something floating in the air, and then now the pharmaceutical company can infiltrate something that compromise your immune system. Instead of you going out and being able to do your own farming in a legal way, they make you go back into their farming corporations and food stamps and not food stamps, but food corps and stuff like that, food chains and stuff like that in grocery stores in order to get their subsidiary, and then they could shoot those Marvel Comics serum hormone shots in these things, right? Boom. They could you, instead of you going to war in your own internal battle to build your own community amongst each other. Thank you so much for the Cash App, Carrie. I appreciate that. Instead of you going to war with your own self to develop shadow work, that you could bring that inside out and develop your own community and things of that nature, right? They make you get distracted with making you think you need to fight an actual war just for you to go kill other humans who look just like you for something that none of y'all was in on, to make y'all think y'all it's worth fighting for. None of y'all was at the round table to come up with none of this paper money with faces on it, none of this digging holes in the ground for oil and gas. Nobody was in on nothing to make a decision to be like, okay, this is what we about to do to make bargaining and gain systems. Yet you somewhere fighting over it, and you was only getting crumbs about it in the first place. And you might never make it back home to your family. How the shadow government convinced you why you need an M16 in the first. It's oh my God, I hate humanity when I start thinking like this. Because it's like, this is common sense. And 99 to 100% of the world don't got that. We literally got 2,000, 4,000 years worth of history and war. Thank you so much for the Cash App. So there is no like me talking pseudo. We actually got 4,000 years worth of examples of us going through war. Something ain't working then. Basically, the common sense, the human brain. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this might be a troll right here. That's why I'm glad I ain't say the name. But yay. So it gets real weird and tricky when you start to see, what are you actually fighting for? What are you actually vulnerable for? What are you actually insecure for? Are these things actually real? Are these things actually a circumstance to actually give your blood, sweat, and tears to? You see what I'm saying? Ooh. Pardon me. So for the most part, so the government, what they do is put names and titles on these characteristics of groups of people over the time who couldn't get with the government program of the rulers, corporation, and country. And what they do is make folklore stories about what these kinds of people need to do if they want God in their life, aka the government basically making a manuscript laid out for you to do if you want the benefits of the government. And this is how they use the religion against you to still do what they need you to do anyway. Now, this what you need to know, and I'm gonna start adding people. This what you need to know. Let me repeat for the third time. This what you need to know. Since I'm the fourth angel, let me repeat for the fourth time. This what you need to know. Before you get lost in all these shamanisms and all this stuff, check it out. What you need to understand, throughout every generation, there were unique individuals. So before you get lost into a generational curse, understand starting points. Throughout all generations, beyond the term curse being added to it, there was always unique individuals who wasn't cursed. AKA, let's break it down to reality. Almost like you being the special one in your family. So I'm saying, in today's time. See, now when you make it simple, now you're able to look at what I'm saying a lot better now, right? See what I'm saying? Before you go identify with anything, but be a walking contradiction. In one breath, you don't want to be a part of nothing, but in another breath, you're a part of all things in the world in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. And that's you living a contradiction in some way, shape, or form. So peep gang, what you need to understand is throughout every generation, there were unique individuals who wasn't cursed, aka almost like you being a special one in your family in today's time. And these individuals or groups of people are most likely the ones you're not going to hear about, due to the fact of these individuals will have been demonetized, shadow banned, or eradicated, sort of like they do now in an updated version with their mental gymnastics, the way how they do towards content creators like me. So eventually there's going to be a time where all my knowledge might be wiped away and we don't come out with no physical way of obtaining these or keeping track of it with our own version of oral tradition. And any story you hear from the news or the government first, maybe, like I said, first, if you ain't hear from your ancestor or word of mouth or folklore through people that you have known through the environment, and you're hearing it straight from the news first or the government first, then here's the thing. This may be something that they are using to be seen a certain way for themselves, or to prevent any knowledge that can steer the common sheep mind away from their governmental status. So keep that in mind. So the government made y'all, based on indoctrination, accept generational curses and accept failures you're not even currently experiencing, and willing to use your own mind to come up with excuses to why your God or ancestors that they made you believe in put you through turmoil that you never came out of. So these spirit gods you believe in is actually manifesting your trial and tribulations, not helping you with them. So the concept is, anytime you act out characters, you manifest the situation of this character outcomes for yourself. And it leads to your own individual way of experiencing it, which will be different but similar via scenario. And so based on how you play out things in your life, that's how it'll play out, but it'll be the same thing. You ever heard somebody say, yeah, they even cast stones at Jesus. They hung Jesus on the cross. So just by you being a Christian, you manifest similar scenarios on how your life being played out, but you can still resonate with it being similar but different. Different people, places, and things, but similar. You feeling like you being hung on a cross. That's not necessarily a good thing. That's you identify with a generational curse based on negative outcomes. And that's it in a nutshell. And a character is a characteristic. And what makes a characteristic have a lot of power and energy as a fart cloud is because when a group of individuals play this energy out for themselves or prey on it, right, with their thoughts and feelings, which add teamwork makes the dream work, to create a fart cloud golem. And a person can be possessed by this and carry these actions out and manifest a similar outcome that really wasn't meant for them, based on acting out of character. So when you're not acting your own character, and you're acting in the name of something else, in the vibe of something else, you manifest those results in your life in your own way. And y'all be identifying with some of these curses that have negative outcomes and be praising it like it's actually a good thing. And then trauma bond with others. And this become 95% of the world. And this is what make religion so major, where all y'all get together to manifest more trauma in y'all life every day. Pop a mid flight. Now we can start adding people. You know what I'm saying? Real shit.